Head over to miniaturemarket.com where they have thousands of board games at discounted prices, and you can sign up for product alerts. Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. It's that time of year where I'm constantly being asked which games should people get for the holidays. And it's friends and family and colleagues, you name it. Well, today I'm launching a series of 3 videos about this. This one is for games under $20. But I've also launched a specific video for casual gamers and family get-togethers, and one for gamer enthusiasts. So this is going to be just games under $20. We're going to start with sort of the lightest ones and go through some of the other ones, but they're all very light because they're only $20. You can click the links below me in the description for those other 2 videos, as well as my full reviews for every game that I'm talking about. So if you want to learn more about that, go ahead and see those links as well. Let's get started. Now the first one on this list is called Sixes. This is from Eagle Gryphon Games. This is sort of in the same vein of Scattergories, if you've ever played that popular party game, where there's different categories and you're trying to come up with different things within them. For example, maybe it's a camera and you put lens or aperture or film or flash. Now the thing is that it's called Sixes because there's 6 rounds, and each round you do something different. Some rounds you're trying to match other players, and every player, so if it was about camera and I said flash, every other person that said flash will also get a point, but if nobody else said it, nobody will get a point. There's other rounds where you're trying to be unique, so you're trying to figure out something about cameras, like, I don't know, lighting or softbox or something like that, that is different from everyone else but still fixes inside that category. And then there's some that are lightning rounds. Instead of giving up multiple answers for a single category, you're giving multiple answers to, or a single answer to multiple categories under a time crunch. And so there's basically a match, a lightning, and a unique, and you do that twice. The game is really fun. It's great because you can play with a small amount of players, but you can also play it with a very large amount of players. Of course, being able to match or be unique changes depending on that player count, but it's one that people can play just sitting around the couch and having a good time. Great party game, Sixes. Now the next one is a little card game called Illusion, and let me show you in 1 minute how this game's played. Illusion is a game for 2 to 5 players where each player is going to have to look at these illusions and figure out where does this card slot in with the other cards in the row, and in ascending order going left to right. This player thinks there's more red here than red on this card. The next player can either challenge or they have to add the next card, which in this case looks like to be a lot of red. The next player can challenge anything here or have to place this card. Maybe they place it like this. The next player, same choice. Maybe they challenge because they don't think these are all in order. So one at a time, these are flipped over and we're looking at the red percentage and trying to figure out, is it in order or not? If it isn't in order like this, the person who challenged would win. If it is in order, the player being challenged would win. The winner of that round takes this up, this gets put off to the side, and a new round starts with a new color. Whoever gets 3 of these first is the winner. Yeah, Illusion's one of those games that you just bring it out and it just goes over so easy because the rules are so light. It's like, hey, does this card have more or less than one of these other cards out there of a specific color? It's very easy to play, it's quick to play, it's over in about 15 minutes. And you can play it over and over again because all the different, even though you see the same card over multiple games, I'd say, and even if the deck's pretty big, but even if you look at the same card, it might be a different color. So things look differently, and so you never feel like you're seeing the same thing because you're looking at it in a different way. And it's always fun to look at this. There's a lot of stand-up moments where people are like, oh my gosh, really? That one is less? It really does play tricks with your eye. So for a really easy, quick game, Illusion's a great one. Now the next one is called The Mind. And this is also from the same publisher as the previous Illusion game, Pandasaurus Games, and I have a 1 minute overview of how this game's played. The Mind is a cooperative game for 2 to 4 players where you're trying to get through a certain amount of levels depending on how many players are there, and you'll have a certain amount of lives in order to get that done. Each player is given 1 card for whichever level they're on, so in level 1 everyone gets 1 card and you're trying to play these in ascending order. But the trick is, you can't talk. You're only using body language by how tense and how close you want to be to the table and how fast you want to play the card, and you're trying to figure it out with each other. But watch out, because if you play a card out of order, you'll lose one of your precious lives, and if you lose all the lives, you've lost the game. As you go up to the different levels, you'll get more cards. For instance, level 2, everyone will have 2 cards. You also can use a star, which means you can raise your hand, and if everyone does it, you can get rid of your lowest card face up. And some levels even get you a life back if you complete it. And you're trying to finish a certain amount of levels depending on the amount of players, and if you finish that, you can go into extreme mode where all the cards are played face down, and for every error you've made after you flip them up, you would lose a life. It's extreme. This is one of those amazing games that just feels like nothing else. The rules are very simple. Let's play cards in order, but we can't talk. Let's just go off body language. It's one of those games that's quick. You'll play it in about 15 minutes, but this is one that you'll be playing over and over again, usually right in a row, because as you play with people and you play with the same people, you get better. You actually improve. The game is hard to win. I think I've only beaten the game once, period, and I've played it more than 50 times. And it's just easy to learn, quick to get people to play, and it has this just unique experience that other games don't have. That's the mind. Now, the next one is called Stay Cool. This is a very interesting party game. Let me give you a 1-minute overview of how this one works. Stay Cool is a party game for 3 to 7 players where you're going to be bombarded by 2 types of questions. One where you are trying to spell out the answer with dice, and the other verbally, but while the time is going, you'll have 2 minutes. These ones you'll be doing with the dice, like a place to lift weights. What is that? Ooh, it's always a 3 or 4 letter word, maybe a gym. And while you're trying to figure out what these dice are, this player over there is asking you, which has the longest teeth, dog, dolphin, rabbit, or shark? Well, let's say I spelled gym. They say, correct, it was gym. Then they ask me, you take this when you go shopping so you don't forget anything. And over here I say rabbit. It's wrong. They say, well, which has the longest teeth, dog, dolphin, rabbit, or shark? But if you finally say shark, you get it right, they go to the next question. This will continue until the round is over. Then you'll get how far you got down on each of them, multiplied like 2 points times 1 point for 2 for that round. Then there'll be a new active player with new cards. There's 1,500 total questions. Second round, you have to say when to flip the timer. If it runs out, your turn's over. Third round, you can't see the timer and you still have to tell it when to flip. Whoever has the most points at the end is the winner. Yeah, this is one of those games that will make you laugh at yourself and others. It's also one of those games that's almost as fun to watch other people do than it is for you to do yourself, because you watch them get tongue-tied over the easiest thing, like what month is the latest in the year. Well, it sounds easy, but when you're trying to spell out dice on some other thing and then they're hitting you with this, your brain just freezes and you just feel so silly. And it's okay, because everyone will feel silly. And I like this game because all the questions are typically pretty easy that everyone should know, but because of the multitasking and the time pressure, it's just so much fun. Like our family has had a ton of fun with this one. It's a relatively new one, and this one is called Stay Cool. The next one is called Quix, and this is sort of like a dice game. If you ever played Yahtzee or something like that, this is similar in that vein where you're gonna be rolling dice, and you're going to be taking certain numbers from those dice and colors and marking them off on your board. But the trick is, once you mark something off, you can never go backwards to the left. You're always moving to the right. So as you take numbers, you're trying to decide, should I go a lot further? Because I know I can't go backwards, but I really want this. And if you can't take anything, you get some minus points. And you're trying to get as many as you can on a couple of colors, and possibly even locking one out and removing that die. Another cool thing about this game is when it's a player's turn, they're actually going to have sort of 2 actions they can take, but everyone else, even if it's not your turn, still gets to take some of the dice and sum them up and possibly use them or not. So it keeps downtime limited. It's a pretty easy game to play, and if you've liked Yahtzee in the past, this is a good one, Quix. Now the next one is a little game called Push. It's a push your luck game. Let me give you a 1-minute overview of how this one works. Push is a push your luck game for 2 to 6 players where you'll be trying to gather cards of different colors in front of you, adding them all at the end to try to have the most points. Each round, the active player is going to be taking cards off the top and adding them to one of 3 different piles, trying to get the most points for them if they can, but you have to be careful because there's only 1 of each color in each pile and only 1 of each number. So right now, if I had pulled another 6 or a blue, it has nowhere to go and you would bust. You have to find the right time to stop. And when you do stop, you get the first choice, and then other players in clockwise order will take and put the cards in front of them. And over the course of the game, you're putting cards in front of you, trying to gather yourself temporary points, but you gotta be extra careful now, because if you bust now because the green can't go anywhere because it's already there, you don't get anything. Everyone else gets to choose, but you have to roll the die. And whatever color you roll, you lose all of those points, so watch out. However, you can, for your turn, bank cards and make them safe, but you don't get to draw cards from the deck that turn. You're also coming up with dice cards that are forcing players that when they take this pile, they have to roll and possibly lose cards as well. Yeah, Push is just one of those fun little classic games that I keep in my car at all times. You play it in restaurants, things like that. And it's really fun because you are literally pushing your luck. You're trying to figure out what to do. You're always trying to mess over your neighbors or your opponents where you're like, oh, you know what? I'm going to stop here. You guys have to take a reroll. Let's see what you guys are losing. Or you're pushing like maybe like, you know what? I'm going to play it safe. I'm going to bank some cards. And it's just simple and fun, has that old style like 80s look, kind of looks a little bit like Uno, so it's very approachable. But it is a very fun game. It's easy and light, works well with all player counts, and it's just a fun little game that you can pretty much play anywhere, and pushing your luck is always fun, and this does a great job with that. Now the next one is called Werewords. This is the secret identity word game. Let me give you a 1-minute overview of how this one works. Werewords is the hidden identity word game for 4 to 10 players where everything revolves around a magic word for that round. Everyone will be asking the mayor yes or no questions as to what the magic word is, and they'll be given the answers with yes or no tokens. The seer also knows the magic word and is trying to guide the team in the right direction. But watch out, because the werewolves are on the prowl, and if they can sniff out who the seer is, the werewolves will win in the end, even if the magic word is guessed. But if the magic word isn't guessed when the clock runs out, the village team can try and put an end to it by killing any of the werewolves. The game comes with a free, innovative app that you can download quickly and easily set up the different roles, change difficulties, and change settings like music and narration. I'm not usually really big on word games, although spoiler, you're going to see another word game on this list in just a moment. But this one is so fun because it's kind of like 20 questions where players are cooperatively trying to figure out what the magic word is. And they're asking questions. Is it bigger than a house? Is it smaller? Is it in our house? Is it in this house? Is it in this room? Is it, and you're just narrowing it down and players are working together. But the real big twist is some of you know the answer and you're trying to get everyone there without being obvious. And of course, there's some werewolves there too, trying to throw people off. It's just an elegant, fun game. It uses an app to sort of run the thing, but man, this game is awesome. If you can get the deluxe version, get that because there's many more roles and it's not that much more expensive. Werewords from Bezier Games. Now the next one is a new card game that just came out recently here in North America. It's called Ohanami. Now let me give you a 1-minute overview of how this works. Ohanami is a card drafting game for 2 to 4 players where you can be drafting 2 cards at a time to build into your own gardens. When you build your gardens, you'll be building in sequential order from bottom to top, from lowest to highest. And as you add more cards, you can add to existing gardens or add a new garden, and you'll have up to 3 total gardens going at once. And when you add a card to a garden, it has to be either higher than the highest or lower than the lowest. At the end of the first round, you'll be scoring only the blue cards. At the end of the second round, blues and greens. At the end of the third, blue, greens, and grays. And at the end of the game, you're scoring the pinks for how many you've gotten. And when drafting, you don't have to keep the cards you want. You can just discard them, keeping them from other players. And at the end of the third round, your gardens might look something like this. And at the end of the game, you're trying to have the most points. This is just a clever little card drafting game. Again, it plays in about 15 minutes. And I always like card drafting where you're selecting a card, or in this case, a couple of them, and you're deciding where to put them and you're passing the rest, and you're paying attention to what cards are going on. You can play this very casually, very relaxing, or you can try to remember what's been passed around and what you might see again and play it a little bit more thinky. And the cool thing about this is you're building those different gardens, but you're trying to do so in such a manner that like the different point scoring is really interesting, where the blue cards, if you get them in the first round, they're going to be worth a lot more points than if you get them in the later rounds. And same with the green. If you get them in the second round, it's like perfect. And the gray ones in the third round. But then you can't, you can focus on those pink cards. And those pink cards, you can come back from way down and win the game. Again, a clever little card drafting game. Really fun. Ohanami. The next one is the other word game on this list I hinted towards earlier. This is called Codenames. Now there's 2 versions. There's Codenames, which is a team versus team version. That is for 4 or more players. The one I'm going to show you the 1-minute overview for is Codenames Duet, because you can play this with as little as 2 players and you're actually working together. So let me show you how this works. Codenames Duet is a cooperative game where you're trying to place all of these spies out on the board. Each player will be looking at a side of the code and they're trying to get their teammate to guess the ones that are in green. For example, if I wanted them to guess sword and razor on the same round, I might say sharp 2, trying to get them to guess that. If they're correct, we'll get them on the board. If they're incorrect, either the turn will end, or if they selected where one of the assassins are, the game ends immediately. To make things even more interesting, 3 of the clues that you're trying to get your partner to get, you also need to get. They overlap. And for the 3 assassins, one of them is also the assassin for the other player, one of them is a clue the other player needs to get, and one is just an innocent bystander, which would end the round. And there's also a campaign mode where after you defeat the regular base game, you can go off to other countries, which will change the difficulty and the way that you need to play. This is absolutely one of my favorite games of all time, and it's under 20 bucks. It's a great find here. This game is so creative because you can come up with such interesting ways with one word to tie multiple things, sometimes 3 or 4 things together, and you're hoping that they get on the same wavelength with you. And there's nothing like throwing something out there against the wall and just having them see what you were seeing and pick what you were trying to get them to think. And it's just very fun to do that. This is just a brilliant, one of the best party games that have come out in ages. Now this again was the duet version, which if you're gonna play with less than 4 players, this is the version you need, and I like it. I like playing the cooperative version, but the team version is also fun too, where you can actually give points to the other team by accident, but you need at least 4 players. So if you're always gonna play 4 more players, the team game's fine. If sometimes you're gonna wanna play with 2 or 3 players, then the duet version is great because you can still play that with more players, and that's Codenames Duet or just Codenames. Now the last one on this list is a trick-taking game called Skull King. Now in this game, standard trick-taking rules apply where someone's throwing a card of a suit and whoever throws the highest rank of that suit wins. But there are trump cards like you'd find in hearts or spades that can overthrow the card led. But there's a lot of different special cards like pirates take things out, but then there's a Skull King that can take everybody out. Unless, of course, a mermaid comes out. So, and the cool thing in this game is it's simultaneous bidding, and you have to make your bid exactly to get points at all, otherwise you're minus points. And there's a way you can try to sort of shoot the moon in reverse where you're trying to not gain any tricks for huge points, both positive and negative. It's got very swingy scoring, but the bidding is so fun, and the different levels of cards and what they do is just awesome. This is my favorite trick-taking game. It's under 20 bucks. This is a new version with the expansion is called the Legendary expansion, and this is from Grandpa Beck's Games. This one is fantastic. Well, there you go. I hope you learned some under $20 games that you might want to get for yourself or for others, maybe white elephant gifts, maybe stocking stuffers. Remember, the reviews for all of those games are below me in the description of this video, as well as the other 2 holiday shopping guide videos. This has been the Game Boy Geek, breaking down barriers, growing relationships through board games by helping you find the next one you'll love. Lucky Duck Games has 4 new games available now. In the Court of Miracles, you lead a guild of beggars, scheme with sinister plots, and use trickery to build your own renown in an attempt to take over 16th century Paris. Baron Voodoo is an abstract strategy game involving the collection of thematic soul dice, and it made my top 10 most anticipated releases at Essen Spiel this year. Kingdom Rush Rift in Time is a tower defense with epic heroes that includes a campaign and an infinite replayability mode. It was hugely popular on Kickstarter, raising over $1 million. Chronicles of Crime 1400 is a standalone follow-up to the award-winning Chronicles of Crime, where you'll be solving 4 unique crimes in medieval Paris. These are all available in stores now, and you can learn more and order them at luckyduckgames.com.